Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Smason, and welcome once again to NOLA Theater Talk. This is a broadcast that we do sometimes once or twice a week, depending on the times and our available status. Sometimes I'm at shows, sometimes because of COVID now opening up, I'm not available on a Friday night, say. But most Monday nights, moving forward, we are going to try to have some kind of entertainment, some kind of show on. This is broadcast to the NOLA Theater Folk Facebook group, to the theatercriticism.com Facebook page, which is a support page, not the actual website for theatercriticism.com, which I founded, and also to my own YouTube channel. If you go check out my name, and you can look that up that way, or put in the old name of Music Lovers 169. That was all the names that we set the account up in a long time ago. And by the way, tonight, if you are going to participate, ask a question, or perhaps like to make a comment, we will know who you are if you use this particular link, StreamYard.com/Facebook. That allows us to see who you are. If you want to post a name of who you are and want to let us know who you are. Many times in the past, I've guessed at who the people are, and sometimes I've been correct, sometimes I have not. So it's always a nice thing to know if in real time we can tell who it is. We can always tell later on in the playback as to who it is, because Facebook has a rule about third-party programs such as this, applications, which they are very protective of your rights and your privacy. So that's why you have to give permission. In the meantime, we have a very interesting two guests tonight. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was, first off, the company itself. The name of the company that's doing this, or at least part of the group, I know it's under, I believe, Clear Creek Creative, but it's part of Mondo Bizarro. And we're going to bring in right now I believe it's correct, the artistic director of Mondo Bizarro. Is that right, Nick Slie?
Yeah.
Am I correct? You are the artistic director, and I want to make sure that people know that you've been around. This is not a new company by any stretch of the imagination. You've been around a while, right?
Yeah, Alan, thanks for having us, first of all. And I'm the co-artistic director of Mondo Bizarro, and we have been around we're celebrating our 19th year right now. So it's been 19 years doing theater here.
Yeah. And again, not like a brick and mortar type of theater like we might see at some of the theaters like Rivertown or Le Petit. I mean, you end up doing a lot of your shows in outdoor areas and things of that sort, don't you?
That's correct. I mean, we've done shows all over the city, outdoor areas like City Park. We've done shows in many different types of spaces, a lot of site-specific, site-responsive work. So, yeah, we do manage a studio on St. Ferdinand called Catapult Studios, where we do train and we host a lot of performances and activities. But for the most part, you're right. Yeah, we don't run a traditional theater in that way. We do our work in a lot of different places.
And I should say that one of the other things about Nick that you do is you're very involved in terms of one with nature. You're very involved with the environment a lot, aren't you?
That's correct. Yeah, a lot of our work has explored this. Quite frankly, what's happening in our city and in the coastline here. A lot about the relationship between the coastal land loss and cultural loss. We've been deeply involved in many storytelling projects from Katrina onward that are kind of just taking a look at, what are the unique circumstances of the place we live, and how do we make art that tells some stories and reflects upon those circumstances.
All right, and one of the people that we're going to bring in next is the star of this next production that you're doing, and it's called Ezell. Is that right, Ezell?
Ezell.
Ezell. Ezell, the Ballad of a Landman, right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay,
yes,
and the star of that is Bob Martin. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank
you,
Alan.
We appreciate you being on tonight. And again, I'm going to try to do as much as I can in terms of find out about this show, because it's very unusual. But Ezell, the Ballad of a Landman. Landman is the name of what we would associate with a person who does work for oil companies normally. Is that what we're talking about?
That's right. Oil companies, coal companies, extractive resource industry, someone who might be looking to purchase the rights to your minerals for extraction purposes.
So again, this is going to be a benefit at Studio in the Country. Now, is that in Bogalusa? Is that the place that I remember? Studio in
No,
the country being?
actually,
Where is it?
at a studio in the woods, which a
A
studio in the
studio,
country is great. It's a recording studio. This is studio in the woods is right across
studio
the
in the
river.
woods. Okay.
It's been there for 20 years, celebrating their 20th anniversary. Host many different residencies for artists, all kinds of New Orleans and artists and people from around the country go there to spend anywhere from a week to 6 weeks at a time, getting a chance to develop their work in the 7.6 acre hard bottom forest there. So it was started by Joe and Lucien Carmichael, and it continues to be run today. It became a program of Tulane University. So now Tulane University sort of technically owns the property, but Amy Rogan, Dave Baker, a wonderful botanist who works there, Grace and Cami Hill Pruitt, they all do work now as the sort of organizers of the studio. And actually, while Lucien Carmichael's not with us anymore, Joe Carmichael still lives as the founding steward on the property.
So tell me a little bit about how it is that you got together with them. Was
Yep.
it just for this project, or have you worked with them before?
Yep. You know, I first experienced the studio in the woods doing a production with Art Spot Productions. Kathy Randalls had gathered a group of women to do a production called Beneath the Strata Disappearing. And Kathy invited me to be part of that production. And that is where the beginnings of the seeds of a character called Loup-Garou, which was developed in that production and then became its own solo performance that was performed in City Park.
And I saw that. It was a wonderful performance.
Oh, thank
If you didn't get an award for it, you deserve one.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, I hope you were at least nominated, because I can't remember, the year, but I remembered I
We
was
did
I
get
was
some
amazed.
awards for it. We were happy to get some awards for it.
Good for that.
We that relationship continued. I did my first residency there last spring, right before COVID hit. And while I was there, I was really struck again by the landscape there. And there's a few things that I was experiencing there that really reminded me of this show that I've been directing with Bob Ezell. And I just thought, of all the places that we could bring this show to New Orleans, because we were planning to tour it here, a studio in the woods just stood out for so many reasons. The personal connection, their mission is really unbelievable. They're just such kind and beautiful producers, and they really produce things at a high level. And so there's this metaphor of the fox in Ezell. And one morning at 6 a.m. when I woke up, I watched a little family of foxes going down the road, and I said, you know what? I'm going to talk to these people because we need to do Ezell here. And since then, it's just been they welcomed the production with open arms and are co-producing it with us. And it's just really an incredible place to go. And you can't believe you're in New Orleans when you're out there.
Now, I assume that we're going to talk a little bit about this, because I think some of the production starts like at 3:30.
That's
It goes all the
correct.
way it's a 4-hour show. Is that correct? 3:30.
No, Bob, you want to explain this? It's not a 4-hour show, but it has a lot. Go ahead, Bob.
I know. Yeah, tell me a little bit, because I know I saw 3:30 to 7:30. I'm going. I know it's in 5 parts, but tell me a
That's
little bit
right.
about the structure of it.
That's right. So this experience is in 5 acts. And so the audience comes to Studio in the Woods. The welcome is act 1. People get acclimated. They have a refreshment. They understand the space. They get to learn a little bit about the space. In act 2, the journey, you travel through this hard bottom forest that Nick spoke about, and you really sort of unwind from your day. You reacclimate into the woods. And the journey has some sculptural installations. It has some music. You are guided by people in character, your guides for the show, who will help you move through the space. Accessibility needs are permitted, and people are guided into a performance space. Act 3 is the performance or the story. And that is where you learn about Ezell, Ballad of a Landman. And as you move through the story, you then move away into a reflection, right? So Act 4 is your guides gather your group in an audience into a portal, is what we call it, an installation, a smaller scene that happens somewhere in Studio in the Woods that allows you to just start to integrate the experience, to engage with some of the themes in a smaller group, to have some particular experience. And then Act 5 is where the groups come together and we have a feast. We have a locally sourced, prepared meal where everyone gets to eat this beautiful feast together. So it's very, it's ancient, right? We tell stories, we gather around food. The whole experience is meant to feed your mind, body, and spirit.
Now, I know it's a fundraiser. We're going to get to that aspect of it too. There are two very special causes that you're raising money for Hurricane Ida relief. But before I get to that, you mentioned the word earlier today, Bob, refreshment, and you wondered about what I had with me. So this is, of course, 3 different ingredients besides the ice and the glass, but 3 different ingredients. There's a little bit of vodka and a little bit of orange juice, and at the very top, we float some Galliano on top, which is an Italian liqueur. Do you know what that's called?
No.
Harvey Wallbanger.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Harvey Wallbanger.
Nice.
One of my favorite drinks from a long time ago. And I'm going to ask now, everybody has their drinks there. So what are you bringing into the room tonight, Nick?
Well, I poured Bob's drink as well. It's a little bit more boring than yours. It's a gnarly barley juicifer on a Friday after a long day's work. So it's a hazy IPA. I should have, if I'd have known how fancy you were getting it with your cocktail, I would have done something different.
Well,
cheers.
The idea of that is, first off, a literal icebreaker. Literally, we want to be able to make people feel comfortable. On a Friday, even on a Monday night, if you've had a long day, you might want to unwind, and it's an opportunity. I tell people you don't have to bring anything alcoholic into the room, but it wouldn't hurt in most cases. But the idea being also that a lot of times people don't have an opportunity to make a drink or something like that they have that they want to share. Sometimes we can go on sort of a theme. I mean, I had Raven Snook in about 2 weeks ago, and I was saying your name sounds like a Bond girl, Raven Snook. I said, so I'm going to make a Vesper cocktail, an 007 cocktail, if you will. So I did that. And again, it's just an opportunity for some people who like to make drinks or maybe want to show off a little bit something to do something. But, we're not trying to be frivolous here. We just, sort of breaking the ice and letting people get to know each other a little bit more. So back to the show. Give me a little bit of the background. Ezell obviously was in progress. You were in production with it prior to Hurricane Ida. You had been workshopping it, I guess, whatever you're doing, developing it in whatever way. So tell me a little bit about the history as to when it started. You mentioned that it had been developed a little bit, but when did it actually get started?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, Nick, that you mentioned how the seeds of Loup-Garou came from beneath the strata disappearing, because years ago, when Cryu One, a combination of Mondo Bizarro and Art Spot Productions, was touring that show Cryu One, we presented them at Clear Creek Creative. And part of that presentation, we then, as an ensemble, presented some work in response. And the seeds of Ezell showed up there in that moment. And it was a powerful reckoning. And right after we presented Cryu One, which was about culture loss, land loss, what you do to the land, you also do to the people and the traditions of the people. Not a few months after that, land speculators started showing up on our doorsteps, which is not anything new in coal country, but this was new because it was exploring a fracking boom that was moving down from the Marcellus Shale through West Virginia into Kentucky, right? And the market was looking to explore this very destructive and experimental mode of fracking, this deep well horizontal shale fracking, where they go 2 miles deep and 2 miles across in every direction. But it was this idea of, well, let's get in quick. Let's send people out as landmen who know their neighbors, who are good old boys, who are familiar. And I just kept thinking about who are the people who don't have work, who are being put on the front line of, I want to live in my place, but people are moving out of my place. We have a fraught history with coal. Coal is dwindling. People are looking at like, what comes after coal? Renewable energy is trying to get online, but it's slow moving at times, especially in a place like Kentucky. And what is the story of someone who loves their place deeply, loves their place, loves the environment of the place deeply, but works in industries that are really challenging and look particularly in terms of the environment, right? So how many people work in oil and gas industry here in the Gulf Coast who absolutely love the environment. And I would wager that more than not, people who work in oil and gas and coal, love the places they live, want to preserve the places they live, but are also like trying to make a living. And these industries are ways in which people send their kids to college. So this sort of problematized the issue of the landman and what does someone have to do to take their shot, to get ahead, to move back to the family land, to build something in a place that they once knew was beautiful, but has been left fallow, that has gone away, to try to reclaim that spirit of, this is what my grandparents worked for their whole life and they don't have it anymore. And now this is my shot to take this job as a landman, to try to sell, to gain mineral rights from people in the area so that then I can buy back the family land and build something. But in this particular story, Alan, there's something called forced pooling in the industry, which means if 50% of your neighbors sign a lease, then even if you don't want to sign a lease, you're beholden to whatever lease gets negotiated. And so in forced pooling, Ezell's job of getting his neighbors to sell their land rights then means even if he doesn't want to frack his own land that he's working to get back, he has to, right? So he's trying to build back the land, build back a dream of what it was like to live in this beautiful place and make his family and himself proud, to take his shot as a man to do something for himself and his family. And he's also, with every shot that he's taking, destroying a little piece of that. And we see that unfold over the course of this play.
So Bob, you did say Kentucky. You're not from Louisiana. Most of the time when we think about landmen, we think about, as I mentioned, oil and gas, people coming in and getting the property rights. And I know that there were stories that were told about particular people who had done very well in being landmen, who one in particular was a renowned, I guess you might say, a well-known banker who took his money and became a banker as a result. And they said that he couldn't show his face around some of the areas he had been before because so many people had felt they were taken advantage of by him, and that he was a marked man as a result of the dealings that he did. So I don't know whether or not that holds any validity for what you're talking about in Kentucky, but it certainly does have some ring of truth here in New Orleans and
Absolutely.
Louisiana.
Absolutely. There's a line in the play. Nana said that it's something about making a deal with the devil, but you got to find a way sometimes to take a shot, to get ahead of the pack, to do something to get ahead, right? And in this moment, this is what Ezell has in front of him is, he's grown up in the area, he knows the people, and he doesn't want people to have to sell off their land the way that his family did his. And so he genuinely, part of him believes that this is the way that you're going to keep your land, right? By selling off the mineral rights, by trying to get that cost per acre back. But at the same time, you're also destroying part of that vision with every open-ended lease that you sign that results in any form of extraction, invented or not yet invented, which is what is the leases call for.
So Nick, is this particular production set in Kentucky? Is that the idea, or is it?
So we premiered
is it set in a just sort of a
Yeah, we premiered it in Kentucky out on at the place Clear Creek Creative that Bob and Carrie, his partner who is the producer, a piece of land that they steward and they've held many festivals on. We took it all the way to the top of the mountain. We staged it on a felled, probably the 150-year-old felled red oak, and we built a set around that. But we knew that it had a lot of energy and resources around people who might want to bring it to their own communities. This relationship we've been in with Clear Creek, as Bob alluded to, has been since 2009. So we've been in dialogue and collaboration together for over a decade, where we've been going back and forth between Louisiana and Appalachia and sharing in our own communities different stories of what our communities are experiencing. So we staged it there, but it's surprising, Alan, when you go to another community and you stage something that is so specifically about Appalachia. I mean, we've had this experience as a company touring around the country. It's so specifically about New Orleans, so specifically about Louisiana, but something about its specificity, it lends a way for other people to talk about what's going on in their own homes, if that makes sense. It's almost like you can almost look for a second and go, well, that's not about us. But then when you start to talk about it, you're like, but that's really actually about us. Because
But
the
well, there
truth is
is,
that,
if there's something that's truthful within a play, I think there's a
ah,
universality to it. I mean,
yeah,
how many people were in Japan seeing the touring show of Fiddler on the Roof, and the Japanese would say, "That's my family."
yeah, totally.
Well, no, it's not. It's a Russian Jewish family from about 120 years ago, and yet they think it's their family, right? You
Yeah,
know,
that's it.
again, the idea being that there is universal truth within it, and again, if
Absolutely.
you have something that
Absolutely.
has that, it speaks to everybody,
Yeah.
and you know, again, specificity isn't always that specific. Sometimes
Uh-huh.
it's so specific it hits a nerve that triggers some
Yeah.
other reaction. Yeah. So
Yeah, you're right.
I have to question. You got the 5 acts, and you sort of, Bob did a really good job of explaining the welcome is the first part,
Yeah.
and the actual Ezell Ballad of a Landman is until Act 3, and that 5 is the reflection, basically the gathering, the eating, and the 4 is the reflection. But again, does it walk from one section to another, or they're different? How does it work for the way the experience of going through this?
Yeah. So yes, you move from one section to the next. There are concessions made for every accessibility need. So when people reserve their ticket, we talk about how we might move people through the space, and we want to make sure people are comfortable first and foremost, right? So socially distanced, outdoors. We want safety to be observed and people to feel comfortable. And then we want them to get into this space and the natural elements of this beautiful forest to be able to start to take control of your senses. You step away from your life, you move into this forest, and something starts to fall away. And that's how we want to bring you into the story, right? You're slowly deconstructing your life. You're letting the forest start to tune you. You then meet a guide who is like, I've got you. You're not lost in the woods. We're not going to send you off. We have you if you need anything, restroom, refreshment, we've got you. And so you have a guide that takes you through the process. You experience the story of Ezell. You move from the story into this smaller moment with your group. Um, you start to integrate that, and then you come back together, as I said before, in the ancient way of we feast and we process and we start to say, how does this thing impact you? It impacts me in this way, and just you get to know people, and then as you move back into your world, you have all of this experience sort of with you as you travel home.
And
Well, but
Alan,
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
just to say, I mean, to get from, there's probably just like, from the welcome to the entering of the studio in the woods to the seating, because you do get to sit and watch a show, watch the story, and to the walk away. You're not talking about a crazy amount of distance that you're walking. It's not a long walk. And like Bob's saying, you don't have to walk everywhere if you don't want to. We really try to accommodate anyone's needs physically. And
Well,
any
that's a good question. I mean, there's some people who might have disabilities in terms of being able to walk, either elderly or perhaps
Mhm.
wheelchair
absolutely.
bound. So, and you
And
have ways of allowing them to go.
part of reserving a ticket, always when we're doing this work, we always are acknowledging that you have to have radical hospitality. You need to ask people right from the jump, what do you need? How can we meet your needs? What are you going to need when you arrive? Who's coming with you? So all of that is accounted for, and people have a lot of time to express to us whatever they need: transportation, getting them to their seats. Much of the studio in the woods is ADA compliant facilities because of the stewards and the people who live there. So all that's taken into consideration, from bug spray to treats, from uh, getting people down the road if they need to in a vehicle. All that is
Mhm.
really considered before people arrive.
And I'm glad you mentioned bug spray, because I will tell you, I was in Wisconsin at probably the second largest amphitheater in the country where they produce shows in repertory, and it's part of a regular festival that they have, and all the entrances to the amphitheater. There may be 6 or 7 different entrances, all have bug spray stations, and everybody sprays themselves going in because they understand if they don't do that, they're going to suffer, and they're not going to enjoy the performance the same. And here in Louisiana, we just had Hurricane Ida, a water event, and the mosquitoes are pretty ravenous right now. So you got to protect yourself. Yeah, but you know what? Those people who are brave and decide that they don't want to do that, that's fine. I know where I'm headed. If I come to see it, I'll be spraying
Yes.
with emphasis and gusto. So
We're
yeah, go ahead.
dreaming that this weather coming through tonight hopefully will bat down a little bit of that heat, and maybe we can get like a tiny bit of like some cooler weather next week that I think
Yeah.
it'll make it a really pleasurable experience.
There's nothing wrong with your camera, folks. I almost lost my pedestal here. Anyway, I did want to let people know that if they are interested in asking a question about this, very interesting production, which is unusual in many ways, the fact it's outside, the fact that there are 5 different sections to it, etc., to please use StreamYard.com/Facebook to allow your name to show up in our comments. And we can post comments. If you want to post a comment, we're more than welcome, to ask you to do that, and we'll be happy to post it. Obviously, we would like to have some input from you as to if you have any questions about explaining the show a little bit more in detail. Now, how many people are in the show? It's not just a solo show, right? I mean, so tell me a little bit about the numbers of people who are in it, and where do we see? Obviously, you've got your guides who are part of the show, and they are essentially acting as guides, but I assume that they are working also as actors within the structure of your presentation. So how many guides do you have? How many smaller groups do you have that have to have a guide?
So there are 4 groups. The audience is broken into 4 groups, and each group has 2 guides. The guides are performers, actors, musicians, multidisciplinary performers, both local from the area and folks that travel with Clear Creek Creative as part of our ensemble. So there's 8 in those teams. There is a musician in the performance. I play Ezell in the performance. You also have musicians, local musicians, who are part of musicians that populate the journey and the reflection as part of the experience. And our culinary team are artisans as well. We want to lift up the people who are making this feast and sourcing this feast as culinary artists in the performance.
Well, go ahead, Nick.
Well, I was just gonna say, Alan, when you add it all up and you always go like, "Oh, this isn't a solo performance," you're really talking about we've got a solid crew of 15 to 20 out there when you add all the food in there. So that is definitely, it's amazing how much, as you know, it takes for a show to put up a show, any show.
Yeah. Now again, the people that are participating, you said musicians, etc. I mean, did you have open auditions for this, or how did it happen that you said, I need so many musicians, I need so many people to be guides, I need whatever? How did that happen?
So we made a decision as a production team to make sure that it's very important to us that when we come to a community that we're hiring people locally. And so in addition to the 4 guides from Kentucky, both from the economic standpoint and from the cultural standpoint, it's very important to us that those Kentucky guides need to collaborate with people who are of and from this culture. And so the 4 local guides, Lisa Shattuck, Kendra Unique, Jaleesa Roberts, and Jeffrey Darensberg, are 4 people that we didn't do auditions for. We more just we scanned what are the values that we want to have in the people that show up. What do they bring to the table? And also, who do we have personal relationships with that we can ask to enter a production that is midstream? If this was a production that was just starting from the beginning, it'd be easier to do auditions. Also, to be quite honest, auditions right now in the COVID world are completely different. I feel like this is really our first production that we're really producing during COVID, coming back in a way to doing something outside. So we're tiptoeing as well, trying to find our way back into these producing waters. But it's really a matter of, Alan, trusting our instincts, trusting the people we know and the collaborators that we've worked with, and also people we've never worked with before. The culinary team is a combination of family and people who really always just bring the love with the food, and also hiring local farmers and local caterers to do this work. Because if we're going to bring time, money, resources to a production, it's very important that local people here in the city of New Orleans benefit from that production. And
Well,
so
yeah, and again, I don't know if you're going to reflect anything, in terms of the culture of Kentucky too. But if you're going to do it right, I would hope you'd bring some bourbon to the dinner.
That's a good one, Alan. We got to add that to the list.
I would have brought bourbon to this call if I had been a little bit better prepared in terms of what we might be mixing up. But yes, I mean, absolutely. And it's also, you can't tell a story about the land without bringing in the food.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's, at least the food is sort of a secret weapon in terms of, as you said, like specificity and unlocking secrets of a place. And so, when you start to organize the community aspects of a performance with not only the farmers, but the culinary artists sourcing from friends and family, suddenly something happens, right? And you taste that. You've gone through this performance. We think it's an incredible experience. And then, it's all brought together with this meal that's going to just blow you away.
Well, again, it's normally, you'd say you have dinner and a play, but this is a play and then dinner. So you've got a little bit of play on words there too. My question is, obviously there's some people who are carnivores, some people who, are herbivores, some people who are vegans, etc. I mean, do you have a lot of things that are available for different kinds of food choices there?
Man, yeah.
Okay, I assume
totally.
you would.
We have some like a cornucopia of like donated dishes that are traditional to the cuisine of New Orleans. We've got a chicken andouille gumbo, we've got a red bean gumbo, we've got some jambalaya, we've got a pastalaya. But then we have a vegan menu that is as extensive as anything. We've got corn makshu cornbread that is vegan. We've got all kinds of this guy Rod Edgerton, who works with Joie de Vivre Catering. He just laid out this vegan menu. So I think the vegans are going to probably I think more people are going to try to go eat some of the vegan food than vice versa,
And I can tell you, somebody who's Jewish who doesn't eat pork, is always challenged when you go to a restaurant in New Orleans or Louisiana. But that's a choice, from my standpoint. I don't expect everybody else to adhere to that, and I certainly can't expect, in some of the areas of Louisiana, they're quite part like gator, and, that would definitely not be on my plate. But again, there are certain people that have no problem with it, and I understand that. But it's the idea, I think, of offering a meal that people can take part in, gives them almost like a family communal experience that they get to share in, more so than just sharing the play. That when you break bread with someone, you really are going a further step towards not just a casual acquaintance. You're really getting into a situation where you almost have a family like connection. So it's a very, very important aspect of what you're doing. Yeah. Again, Lisa Shattuck. I know Lisa as an actress. I'm so glad to hear that she's involved in this. And again, if she's within earshot tonight, I hope that she's doing well. I never get to check on all of my friends, etc. I know that several people out in the country, and I think Lisa does live out in I don't know if it's Laplace or whatever that might have been affected by the storm. So I certainly hope that she's fine. But one of the better performances I had seen of Rising Water, I know she played the wife. Yeah. And John Bigonnet was very much taken with her and her New Orleans accent, which he had, which was spectacular. Because not everybody gets it right. A lot of people come in and they try to make it more of a Cajun accent if they're not familiar with it, etc., when it's being presented elsewhere. So as John said, he was on the show last week on Monday. He said, if you want to do a New Orleans accent right, you really got to do more like a Brooklyn or that type of an accent. Now, in terms of what are are there accents or different kinds of I guess you might say uh, patterns of speech that go on in Kentucky that are specific to Kentucky that I might not be aware of, or
Absolutely. I mean, I would say much like this place or any rural place, there's a cornucopia of accents that I would say often get misconstrued as one type of rural accent. But maybe you've heard of the idea of Appalachian dialects being similar to Shakespearean English and
yeah, I have.
patterns and lilts, or ballads that have been preserved based on communities that have Scotch Irish communities in particular that have held ballads for hundreds of years and are closely akin. We have in this play, Ezell. There's many different facets to Ezell, including a young Ezell, including an ancestor, and they all have different speech patterns that are drawn from the community, the resources, the research of just being a theater artist in East Kentucky and rural Kentucky. I do a lot of work with communities, supporting communities in writing their own plays and musicals and telling stories about those places. Community story projects, community story plays and musicals, community performance, and all of that. I learned so much from every community that I'm honored to be part of. And so as we've created and collaborated in dozens of community story projects, all of that is seeping in, right? Because a lot of that is about story gathering, supporting communities and telling their own story. And you're just there as a performer, as an actor, as a researcher, lifting up the cultural traditions of place that are often not lifted up and saying, this is incredible, right? The songs, the food, the movement, the textiles, right? Like just being able to really tap into the tapestry of a place, you just find a bottomless well. And I would say we look forward to sharing that with our community here in New Orleans.
And again, we as I said, we just went through a major event, Hurricane Ida. People in Laplace were flooded out in many cases. Some people were very lucky and they're on higher ground. But we had the hurricane that pushed the water from Lake Pontchartrain into Lake Maurepas, basically flooded a lot of those areas. And I know that you're doing, and you'll have to help me with the pronunciation, but it's part of
Yep,
the Homeless Nation, and it's a garden that they have, and maybe you can tell me a little bit about the garden and
absolutely.
why this is benefiting them, what it's going to benefit, and also something like St. James, Rise St. James, is that what
Yeah,
it is? Is that benefiting the people of St. James Parish, or
yeah. So
yeah,
I could explain that.
yeah? Go ahead, go
The
ahead.
first thing that happened, Alan, was we got on a call and we were just really trying to decide, does this performance need to happen in Louisiana right now? And I think we pretty swiftly thought, this can be, having gone through Katrina, you remember that these types of events getting together, especially now during COVID, they're nourishing and they can be a real nourishing thing for the community. So once we decided we want to get together, we all decided as a production team together that the economy of this production had to change. And what we mean by that is to say, we can't just charge tickets like we were planning to. So we immediately had the idea to go to some donors and go to some of the people who funded the performance and ask them, can you just underwrite this performance? Can you make sure that we can get this production to a place that 100% of the proceeds go to Hurricane Ida relief? The way we chose the organizations that we chose, one of them is, you're right, it's the United Homa Nations Yakani Ekalana Garden. It's a really special garden. It's a really special place where they're attempting, well, not even attempting, they're doing, but they're developing a garden that is a farm and a stickball field and many other things to grow food for their community. And our friend Monique Verdun has been working deeply with them, and Mondo Bazaar works a lot with Monique Verdun and Another Golf is Possible collaborative. And so we decided, yes, this was a place down on the bayou that we definitely felt like aligned with our values. And then on the Rise St. James front, a lot of Ezell is investigating the efforts to address the extractive industries. And Rise St. James, I have a personal connection. My mother and my family, a lot of my mother's side of the family is from St. James Parish.
Mm.
And we just reached out to Rise St. James because we know they're also were ravaged by the hurricane. They're also doing work that's mission aligned with us, and it just made sense to, there's so many organizations that need.
Well, yeah, I mean,
It
run the
is just
gamut there.
something.
I understand. Yeah.
But we felt these two were mission aligned, the food aspects and the garden aspects for Ezell, the extractive industry aspects, and we just we went with those two.
So tell me a little bit about the garden. What does the garden do? And
Yep.
obviously this is going to raise some money for them, but what's the intent of the garden? Is a place where people meditate and just commune with nature, or is there
Well,
another aspect to it?
first intent of the garden is to grow food for the community, and so to actually put food on the table. If you read about their garden, though, they have a much broader dream about it. In fact, there's this incredible organizer named Ida Aronson, who's part of that project, and she loves theater. She was trained as a theater person, a stage manager, and she's someone who's really deeply into performance, which is another great connection here. But I think, to have a garden, yes, Alan, for meditation, for getting out on the land, to eat food and grow food. They also have, they're trying to make a stickball field, which is not stickball like Brooklyn stickball or New Orleans stickball, but stickball like you run around with sticks, and it's an indigenous sport, or it's an indigenous game that's akin to lacrosse.
Oh yeah, okay.
And so they want to put a stickball field there so they can continue to have a place to gather with their youth and different people. So it is a multi-purpose facility, as I understand it.
Well, I was happy to see the other day that they changed, or at least the designation now is not just Columbus Day, but it's also Indigenous Peoples Day, because it is sort of a way of honoring the people who were here before the European nations arrived, and who made the land part of their culture, and we pay homage to a number of the different indigenous tribes that are located in various areas. I don't know whether or not here in New Orleans there was one specific nation that was here, and I haven't seen too many of the tributes that you see a lot of times in programs saying, we are on the certain land, etc. But New Orleans was a place where a lot of different tribes would come and trade even before there was a French market. That's a good spot where a lot of the nations would meet and trade, in earnest with one another. And so
Yeah,
so I don't know. I don't know exactly if it was only the homeless, but I know that we had the Muskogee tribe, etc. That was here. I don't know if that they're part of
well,
the extended nations, etc. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about that.
The Congo Square was once called Congo des Plaines, which was also the Congo Square was a gathering place and a trading grounds for indigenous peoples. Bayou St. John was also referenced as Bayou Shupik, and the portage road that is Bayou Road that led to the river was an indigenous thoroughfare. There's a man in our performance named Jeffrey Darensburg, who is a scholar of his tribe is the Atakapaw Ishak. And
I know Jeffrey. Yeah, he's a musician too.
Yeah, and he's going to be playing music in Ezell.
Oh, okay, that's fantastic.
And Jeffrey, he said in one of our check-ins for Ezell, he's like, he proposed in 2014 like the word Balbancha for this place in a public lecture, which was just to say there's an ancient word that means the land where many languages are spoken, which honors, again, what we all know about this PowerPoint on the planet, this river delta that is the Mississippi River, that it's always been the confluence of many cultures. So you're right, Muskogee, Cherokee, Chitimacha, Choctaw, also the Homa, the Biloxi Chitimacha, the Atakapaw. We have a lot of different people who have been here living in the shifting landscapes of this delta for thousands of years. So you're very right, Alan.
And even the ancient, the Akolapisa, people like that. We don't
the Akolapisa.
Yeah, I mean all of those people.
The Bayou Gula, absolutely.
Right. So again, those of you who don't know what we're talking about, good idea. Go check it out. There are a lot of places that you can find out about information about that, and very simple. We have national park systems that are here in New Orleans. I don't know if they're giving shows out all the time in the Butte Carré like they used to, but there are different places where the national park rangers, they know about all of this, and they know about all where other people are. They're heavily researched, and interesting to know, how much there was influence of indigenous people here in New Orleans and Louisiana. And I remember going to trying to remember, was it Natchez to go see the burial mounds that they had there. And I mean, it's just amazing to see some of those things that are still with us,
Mhm.
that are hundreds and hundreds of years old. So again, those of you who are just joining us, again, want to welcome you again to the show. It's NOLA Theater Talk. We have on our show tonight Nick Slie, who is the co-artist from Mondo Bizarro, as well as Bob Martin. Both of them are representing a show which is opening on Thursday is the first day for the show,
Correct.
and
Thursday through
it's going to go
Sunday.
all the way through Sunday, and it starts at 3:30. But I believe you have two shows on Saturday, right?
Hmm. Yeah, so you'll get to come um, on Saturday at 10 or at 3:30. So we'll do a double experience.
Okay, so it's a 5-act, if you will, play, 5-part play. That you have a welcome, you have the
A
second part,
journey.
a journey. The
Mhm.
third part is the play, Ezell Ballad of a Landman. The fourth part is a reflection of all of your group, and then the fifth part is a communal gathering for feast, and then
Feast and
everybody,
music.
yeah,
Hmm.
and music, yeah. Again, there must be music throughout too, while the musicians you said
Absolutely.
are embedded. So I assume that they play something along the way while you're walking to and from the different areas
That's
and different
correct.
sections. So is there a specific kind of music that you're using, or is it just sort of up to the musicians? What did you decide to use for that?
Wow. Well, the first thing is that we have a composer who's really incredible music director,
Oh,
Corey Schenk. So within the story portion, Corey, um, he really has a voice that's hewed out of the mountain. He's a beautiful singer. He's an incredible fiddle player, incredible guitar player. So the
Balladeer.
a balladeer. The music's rooted in Appalachia. Corey is also, of course, just like our local guides. We're communicating with and collaborating with local musicians, and so always looking for the ways that the cultures intersect musically. I mean,
uh-huh.
music is a place where, just like food, we can see a lot of cross cultural intersection, and certainly there's a ton of relationship between old time music from Appalachia and the Scottish tradition of fiddle music that came through the Acadian music that became Creole, that became Cajun music. And so there'll be a little bit of the journey music as well, that is a patois of different styles. People like Jeffrey Derensberg, who of course expresses his own type of music. So in the story section, though, we really feature the work of Corey Schenk, who is a deeply hewed Appalachian musician.
Well, I was going to ask you if he was related to Ben Shank, but
Oh
probably
shit!
not.
Oh wow,
Probably
that's
not. Yeah, yeah.
But Ben Shank's wife, Amy Rogan, is one of the producers. She's the director of a studio in the woods, and
Oh,
so
okay.
we're gonna have to connect all these people at the same time because they might be long lost cousins.
You never know. You never know.
That's
Of
kind of
course,
a theme, Alan, is that everyone who comes into the show are long lost cousins, and hopefully by the end, it is that family experience that you expressed earlier in
and
terms of.
anybody who doesn't know, Ben Shank is the leader of Panorama Jazz Band, which does a lot of klezmer music, but they also specialize, if I'm not mistaken, in some of the music of the Caribbean. So
Yep.
they do you mentioned cornucopia. They have a cornucopia music that they
Oh
offer as
man, they have a
well.
panorama.
Incredible.
Yeah. Again, let me. We only have about 10 minutes or so left of the
Yep.
show. So let me tell people how they can get tickets. Where do
Yep.
they have to go? Do they go to mondobizarro.org or something?
Actually,
Or
they'll go to a studiointhewoods.org. If they
studiointhewoods.org?
go to mondobizarro.org, there's a
Yeah.
Ezell button right there. Just click it. You'll take you to the Studio in the Woods page where you can go on. And a couple of things about that. Reserve tickets for any night or any experience you want. The weekend is getting pretty sold. And so just to know it's a limited number of tickets. And I know we in New Orleans, we like to wait to the last minute, and I respect and understand it. But we can't help y'all if the show sells out, because it's meant to be an experience for a smaller group of people. Not a smaller group, but we try to hold to that with our meal and everything. You can
And
reserve
you said that it's 4 different groups that you've got. So what's the biggest group that you could have that could attend?
Alan, the
in
experience
total?
probably going to be capped at close to 50 for the audience. So the whole thing would be 50. We have another crew of like 15 that are part of our crew. So when you think about it, by the time everybody's seated out there, it's about 50 audience members.
So about 12 or so per group?
You got it. Yeah.
Is that about right? Okay.
go
So in other words,
reserve-
if I'm trying to bring 5 or 6 people, I may need to I may need to expect that maybe I'm only going to have the ability to get 3 or 4, or maybe 5. Maybe I won't be able to bring all 6.
Well, and also, Alan, just tell us, we really want you to come see the show. We'd love for you to experience it. And just email me after this, and let's talk about what your group is and who you want to bring. I mean, we obviously want as many people to see the show as possible, and we also want to respect that it's an intimate experience, and that we want to make sure that level of connectivity can happen. But you'll
Now,
go.
I will say one of the two.
Yeah.
Starting this weekend, we got some cold weather moving in, so
Yes.
it might be not also a bad idea. Aside from the bug spray, which you might not need so much of if it's cold, but you might want to also think about bringing a sweater or a jacket with you, right?
Absolutely. And we send you an email that's like, we'd recommend that you bring this and this and this, and that'll include like some shoes you feel comfortable in. We'll have the bug spray for you, but yeah, whatever you feel will make you most comfortable. But you
That's
just click
fantastic.
on the link of the day you want to go. And I would say this as well: if you're the type of person who's really not feeling comfortable being present with people right now, but you really want to contribute to this experience, and especially the Hurricane Ida relief, as part of our ticket links, if you click on a ticket link, you can make a donation to the experience without reserving a ticket for the show. So that's also an option for you.
All right, and again, I'm going to try if I can. I don't know if I'm going to be successful, but I'm going to try to share out the Mondo Bizarro site. Let me see if I'm able to do that. Never know. Sometimes I'm lucky, and I can do certain things, and sometimes I'm not. But I think I'm right now. Let's check it out. So people, can you see it now?
Oh, cool. Yep, there it is.
Okay.
If you scroll down, so this is our website, and if you scroll down, you'll scroll down a little bit more, upcoming events. If you
There
click
it
on
is.
Ezell,
Click right
on
there.
Learn More, takes you right over to the ticket page, and you're ready to go.
I just did it. Let's see what it goes. There it is.
Bam.
All right. And again, you can see the information outdoors, a studio in the woods. And again, I might have said studio in the country in my promotion tonight, so I apologize.
It's okay.
Sometimes I make mistakes, and I'm the first person to admit when I do. So, and again, there it is, the United Homa Nations Yakani Ekalana Garden. And I can pronounce that better than what was in the, for some reason, I had a little problem on stepping out yesterday, but I hope I didn't butcher it too badly. And we're going to talk about this on next week's show.
Okay.
I'm not going to be able, as much as I'd like to be able to be there Wednesday and Thursday. I've already got some other commitments, so I hope you'll forgive me. But this weekend, unfortunately, is completely booked for me. You don't need to go on with it. You can go on without me, as my father used to say famously. If I'm not there, start without me. So and I don't mean to be cute about it, but I mean but between events for the LPO and shows that I'm having to see this weekend, I've literally no opening. So that's why we're not doing a show on this next Friday because of that. But again, I want to wish you and Bob, a wonderful opportunity here to talk about a show and really to get some promotion to a group that doesn't normally get a lot of promotion. I mean, how many productions have you done with Mondo Bizarro throughout the year?
Oh, man. Alan, so many. I mean, throughout our
right, but I mean, it's not like you have a set seen like you doing 6 shows a year.
So
I
yeah,
mean,
but I can give you an example. The production that we worked on that we premiered here in 2013 called Cry You One, and that we closed here in 2019 with we were producing here. That show toured to 14 different places across the country,
right,
and it was also part of some pretty rigorous work on the Gulf Coast. So you
right.
know. We've made that conscious decision. We work on things for a very long time, and we work in deep partnership with people, and we hope that the themes and actually the experience of the work leads to different types of changes in our community. And so it's a different model, we know, than a season model where it's like, we're forcing 3 or 4 shows a season, but we also have a podcast, and we produce stories, and we make documentary films, and we run a space, and we do different types of organizing. So it's just a different model. Neither one is better. But you're right. It sometimes doesn't land you in the paper every day. But we stand by just that's our philosophy, and we want to do deep work in that way.
Well, in many ways, you might be reaching more people with your shows than people locally. I mean, some theaters open up and they put on a show, and they might have a 300-seat arena, but they may only sell 50 tickets for the show. So
Yeah,
you take
yeah,
your show out on the road, and you have 200 or 300 people at a time. It's a different kind of experience, and it's
yeah, for
one
sure.
that people will maybe treasure a little bit more, being outside of the area. Bob, what's up for you now after this is over? Are you based here in New Orleans now, or are you out of Kentucky?
We're based in the foothills in Appalachia, not too far from a place, Berea, Kentucky. Clear Creek is where we live. It's the ancestral home of the Cherokee and the Shawnee and the Yuchi, and we steward 87 acres. Artists come to our eco-cultural center, make work. As we said, we hosted Cry You One on their national tour. Many other artists come through there. We're also touring Ezell. Next year, we're going to be in a partnership with the Schwarzman Center at Yale, a new performing arts center in New Haven. Wow. We're going to be with the Farm Arts Collective in Damascus, Pennsylvania. We're going to be with the Ujima Theater Company in Buffalo. And we have various other partnerships that we're looking to bring online throughout touring in 2022 and 2023 with Ezell, Ballad of a Landman. And a lot of these are also, we're not trying to go to many places. We're trying to go to select places like New Orleans, where we have deep partnerships, where there's a lot of synergy, and we can really do something special by integrating the food and the music and the stories of place with our place, and really create something magical for folks.
So again, I want to wish you, break legs, etc. Wish you a lot of success with this. And again, the world premiere was in Kentucky, right?
That's right. That's
so,
right.
So this is going to be the second iteration of it.
This is the third iteration.
Third iteration. Okay, so where did it go before it came here?
In July, we went to the Pine Mountain Settlement School in Harlan County, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
And it was part of the Hurricane Gap Community Performance Institute, and we shared it there for the first time on the road.
Okay, so we can say this is the regional premiere.
You got it. Yes,
absolutely.
All right. Again, the regional premiere, and again, Clear Creek Creative, is that right? Clear and Mondo Bizarro jointly kind of producing this. Up to what, 15 actors, you said, approximately?
Approximately, yeah, true.
And again, up to maybe 50 people can see it at a time, 4 different groups, 5 different acts, and then some food, not just food for thought, but also food to eat. So you'll be able to enjoy yourselves. And again, we want everybody to know Ezell, Ballad of a Landman starts on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Again, you go to studiointhewoods.org or go to mondobizarro.org, and you'll get all the information that you need there. I want to thank you both for being with me. I know you probably said, gee, we're going to talk about this thing for an hour. And guess what? We did. No problem. So I'm happy that you all were able to participate. And again, I want to remind everybody as we get ready to close out tonight, that Monday night we are going to have a very special gathering of Jim O'Quinn's
Oh,
friends
man.
and colleagues from
Yeah.
American Theater Magazine. Jim was, of course, a wonderful member of our theater community here. He passed away this week. And so anybody who wants to join in, just text message me, email me if you got my number or whatever, call me, and I'll give you the link. But we have some wonderful people who have already agreed to take part, including the current editor of American Theater Magazine, and one of Jim's former workers there, or at least a couple of them, and possibly several other people here. I think that one of the local actors has already said he'll be taking part in it. And I'm just looking to see anybody else who wants to show up and say a few words. This is really not meant for Jim's immediate family. It really is for the people who are affected by him as an editor, and to talk about his impact on them as either writers or as lovers of theater. So again, my appreciation for all of y'all being with us on Monday as we do a tribute to our good friend Jim O'Quinn. In the meantime, I'm going to ask you, Nick and Bob, to just stand by, and I'm remove you for just a second while I say goodnight to everybody. Again, my name is Alan Smason. Thank you very much for being with me. This is NOLA Theater Talk. And again, as always, see you at the theater.